Dealer Solutions has partnered with dealers since 1992. They innovate and seek out new solutions to keep dealers where the buyers are. This year, Dealer Solutions is bringing CallSource to the market, as they've been providing leading solutions in call management, marketing analysis, and sales improvement since 1991.
And here to talk to you about CallTrack, Lead Source, and Dealer Saver is Brad Barnett, President of CallSource.
Good morning. I'm Brad Barnett, President of CallSource, and happy to be here with you today to introduce you to the solutions that we're bringing here to Australia. We have partnered, we're a US-based company headquartered in Los Angeles, California, and we've partnered with Chris Venting and Dealer Solutions to bring you our world-class solutions here to Australia. So let me start by defining call management. What call management really does is it starts with understanding your ad sources and which of those ad sources are delivering the phone calls to your dealership. But it goes well beyond that. What you have to do is understand which of those phone calls are really the prospects for your business, those people that are ready, willing, and able to buy the products and services that you offer. And then after that, you've got to know what is the brand experience that those prospective customers are experiencing when they talk to that first person on the phone. And then you've got to understand, are those prospects being converted into dealership appointments? Because if we don't bring them into the dealership for a test drive, we're not going to sell them anything. And after that, we've got to have a full-on solution that helps us to manage our sales reps. We've got to understand who's doing a great job and who's not. And even more specifically, how are they doing over time? Are they improving? Are they getting worse? And exactly where in that process are they doing better and where aren't they? Why is this important? It's important because when you get that phone call from a prospect, they are well down in the buying funnel. They've done their research online that probably started 2 or 3 months ago. They've looked at a number of different brand options. They've looked at a number of different model options. And when they call you, they're no longer in the research phase. They're in the buying phase. And when we take a look at studies done in the United States, what we find is that when they get to that buying phase, maybe 10% of the people just walk into your dealership and commence that process with you. Maybe another 15% will send you some type of email inquiry over the web. But 75% of the time, they're going to start that process by picking up the phone and calling you. And it's a zero moment of truth, because in that 2 to 4 minutes that you have with them on the phone, they're going to decide, is there a possibility that they're going to do business with you or not? So you've got 2 to 4 minutes in the zero moment of truth to do the right things that are going to have them come into your dealership and give you the opportunity to work with them. Research by the AADA Dealer Academy shows that those people that call the dealership and ultimately buy do so within 7 to 10 days of calling the dealership. So when I say they're low in the buying funnel, they are ready to purchase by the time that they give you a call. So it's really a very successful formula that we're trying to solve for. We want to generate phone calls. We want to schedule those people into the dealership for an appointment. We want to put bums in seats so that they can see what we have to offer them, and then we want to do business with them. It's a very simple formula to solve for. But the problem is there's so many other things going on in the dealership that to do this correctly, it's very difficult. Anyone here that's involved in any aspect of dealership management knows there's so many things going on that to sit back and just take a look at those phone calls and listen to the phone calls and train our sales rep, it's a big process to undertake. And that's why we've taken the effort to build a turnkey solution that allows you to run the dealership and do those things that you can only do with your sales rep, and we add scale to this entire process. And our process starts with call tracking, and I'm certain that everyone in the room is familiar with call tracking. We place tracking numbers on the ads. We can direct calls anywhere in the country. They can originate anywhere. They can terminate anywhere. We're going to capture that data. But where it really becomes important for us is that we capture that phone call as part of that. And with that recorded phone call, we're able to listen to that phone call and identify, of those people that are calling the dealership on those ads, who's a prospect and who's not. Further, what we do is we listen to understand, are they a prospect for sales, are they a prospect for service, or are they a prospect for parts, so that we can get those calls to the right people in the dealership. After we've listened to the call and made that determination, what we do is we listen to that phone call again and understand, did the right things happen on that call, or was this a missed opportunity? Maybe the call handler never asked for an appointment from that prospect. Maybe the piece of inventory that they called on has already been sold and they never offered them to see anything else. Maybe the call just got disconnected. But in any event, within 2 hours, we're able to listen to that call and send you an email if it was a missed opportunity, so that you can call that prospect back while they're still in that buying phase. And what happens when you do that is most consumers do not expect to have a great experience in their car buying experience. It's a fact. It's not something that we're proud of, but it's a fact. When you're able to call a consumer back that maybe didn't have the best experience and explain to them that you're concerned about the way that their inquiry may have been handled, you're going to give that prospect a wow experience. And what we find in the United States is that we're able to close a higher percentage of calls that came in, that came through and were originally mishandled, that were called back by someone at the dealership. It's a way to get ROI out of that marketing dollar that you've already spent. Because it's not just about spending more dollars on marketing to get more people to come in. It's about handling them effectively to begin with. But it's more than just handling the, if you will, rehashing, correcting for something that went wrong. We have a system where we listen to each of the call handlers and score how they're doing in a very specific way. It's not about, was there a smile in their voice when they called? It's about, did they do the right things that's going to progress that call to that next step in the sales process? Everything from appropriate greeting through the end and closing that call and confirming when that customer is going to be in for their test drive and capturing all that information that is so valuable about the customer. We're doing all that behind the scenes to make certain that the process is working properly at your dealership. And that's the system. And let me explain to you from the data that we have on our platform for those dealers that opted in to share their information. From January to May of this year, we looked into the data. There was over 2.5 million telephone calls that we analyzed. And what we found is that there were 335 people that were sales prospects for that dealership, all of the dealerships on our platform. But only just over 23,000 of those was converted to a sales appointment. That's less than 7% of the people that are calling are agreeing to come in for a sales appointment. And again, if they're not coming into the dealership, we're not selling them anything. But what we also find on our platform is that the top 10% of dealers are converting at a rate of 28%. So what I've shown you here, if we can increase that close rate from just below 7%, if we can bump that by 5 points, annually we'll be adding over $83,000 in bottom line profit. And that's in the US, where we're only making about $2,200 per car front and back end. If we're able to get that number to a best practice level, where we're close to 28%, it's adding over $300,000 a year in profitability. And that's just on the sales side. That doesn't include service and parts. We did a program, a 90-day pilot with a major OEM in the United States. It was a 90-day program with 83 of their dealers. During that time, we had over 200,000 inbound phone calls. And a few interesting things about those phone calls is that first, 30% of those phone calls were never answered by a live person. They either went unanswered or went to someone's voicemail. So 30% of 210,000 calls didn't get to a live person at the dealership. What we found is 54% of those people that called were prospects, ready, willing, and able to buy a product or service of the dealership. And 27% of that number were looking to buy a vehicle. Of that number, 47% of those were mishandled by the person that handled that call. And what we were able to do is send out the alert to the dealership, and just the new car sales that came from those mishandled alerts was over 600 units. That doesn't include any CPO cars or any used cars, because the OEM was only interested in moving the new cars. And if you take a look at these numbers and extrapolate it over that entire OEM's client base, that is enough new car sales that it would change their market share in the United States. So needless to say, they were rather impressed with the results, and we have an ongoing program with them and their dealerships in the United States. Another thing that we looked at, and I looked at just the month of May here, just to put this in perspective. When we take a look at all of the phone calls that came into the system, whether handled properly or mishandled, what we find is that, and we work with RL Polk in the United States. Our RL Polk is here in Australia as well. We use them to identify from the phone call which of those phone calls resulted in someone actually purchasing a vehicle. And what we find is that 40% of the sales of all the dealerships that we're working with come from a sale where we had sent them a mishandled alert, where that dealership had to call back that consumer in order to re-engage them. So 60% of their sales are coming from an inquiry where it's handled properly by the call handler, and 40% of the sales are coming when they mishandled that call and we gave them a second opportunity to re-engage that consumer. So think about the ability to increase your sales by 40%, or what it's like to not have 40% of your sales without ever increasing the marketing spend that you're currently undertaking. And the one thing that you may be surprised about is that this turnkey system, where we're on the back end doing the heavy lifting and allowing you to do what you need to do with coaching your reps and putting those bums in seats, is a very competitive price to what you're paying for just the call tracking today. So in scale, we're able to offer this solution in a way that allows us to do this on the back end, to provide that safety net, to provide that monitoring service for you, so that you can make certain that you're getting the value from the marketing dollars that you're spending. And if you have any questions about this, Dealer Solutions, Chris Venning will be in the back after the session, and I'll be then with him to answer any questions you might have. Thank you guys very much.
Wow, okay. Let me tell you, Brad, there's a standout number on that previous slide. I mean, it's, if you're not paying attention in the room, but I've just got to get this right in my head. So 39.2% of sales in dealerships came from missed opportunities. That really says there's a lot of opportunity out there for dealers in managing this process a lot better.
Absolutely. It's amazing what you'll hear when you start listening to the phone calls and what isn't going right, that you otherwise is just a day-to-day activity, but it's just mishandled. And with the same marketing spend, with the same staff, you're able to get a lot more people into the dealership to buy cars by utilizing our platform.
So the theme today has obviously been a lot about customer engagement, but yours is really about the coalface. It's about really learning how you can improve your communication with the customers at that coalface entry point for them, which is very interesting, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a moment of truth. I mean, the research has been done. They're in the buying phase. And what we try to do is to help dealerships to sell more vehicles. And where we're able to affect that is when they're already in the buying funnel, when they're at the very end of the buying funnel, by just making certain that things are going right and that your staff is doing the right thing. And if it doesn't happen correctly, to give you that recapture tool so that you can re-engage that customer before it's too late. Because once they've called your dealership, there's not a lot of time before they're going to make a purchase with you or someone else. And we'd rather have it with you as our client.
But even better than that, you're clearly improving the skill set of the dealer staff. I mean, this whole process must be improving that skill set of these people tenfold.
Yeah, absolutely. Long term, that's the ultimate solution. That we don't want to send out any alerts. We want every single sales representative in that organization to handle the calls perfectly over time. And giving the tools to grade those calls and to track that and to track the specific part of the call that's going correctly and what's not is really key, because it's one thing to talk to a staff and say, you don't do well on the phone. Well, that's an elephant too big to eat in one bite. So what we do is we break that down into individual components, improve skills in individual areas, identify gaps in individual areas, so you as the manager of the business can work with them on those areas that they're not performing well in.
Well, of course, Brad's obviously American. You would have got that into that front.
How can you tell?
And he's partnered with one of our great friends at the convention, Dealer Solutions, and Chris Venning. They'll be at the back of the room. Ask them about this. Is a great product. Thanks, mate.
Thank you. How could you tell I was American?